Hey, welcome to our first episode of Boot Camp, Streaming Boot Camp, something that I decided to start to try to help people that want to learn more about streaming. So, welcome to the show. Gonna just go ahead and explain a few things, a little background. So, I've been involved in streaming for, well, since COVID kind of came in, started working with the local church and really got my talent there. Then about a couple years ago, I got this brilliant idea that I would try to start a educational program for healthcare workers in my specialty, which is urology. So I decided I'm going to start a healthcare education podcast, and it's been going for every week. Every week we have a show every Saturday, and I've been doing it for over 2 years now. It's been really successful. A lot of patients started to watch the show, and I started a second podcast that's aimed with more information, generally just for the patients. So that's what started all this. And I started thinking, well, maybe I'd share it with some of the things I've learned over the last 2 years about podcasting. So we're going to do that tonight. I'm going to go through a few slides and go ahead and let you know what things I've come up with, um, new ideas that I've had. This is definitely the learning phase for this particular podcast. I kind of don't know what I was going to expect to have as far as viewers. So I know that there was some. It's not going anywhere where it can be seen, like on YouTube, or typically I broadcast it on a whole bunch of other shows. I think I might do that in the going forward because that may be helpful to get the word out about it. But it's going to play it by ear. You can use the comment box to send me any questions or concerns you might have. And I'm going to get rolling with the show and kind of take it from there. And let me just start up here with my slides. There we go. So the first thing I thought I would talk about is microphones and choices of microphones for podcasting. Number one thing is the importance of why choosing the right microphone really matters, because the quality of your microphone can make or break your podcast. There's no question about it. A good microphone reduces background noise, enhances clarity, and different microphones can suit different voices. So that the microphone that I choose for myself may not be the best one for you. You have to kind of figure that one out for yourself to see what works out best. Now, I can tell you that one of the things I learned, I like to listen to a lot of podcasts myself. And if you can't hear and understand what they're saying, you're not going to stay tuned in. That's the most important thing, is to have good quality audio. So you want to start there. And that's why I've got this big X. So if you're using your computer's microphone that's built in, forget it. It's never going to give you a good sound. So you always want to have a better microphone. I'm going to go through some choices. Some are going to be a little on the expensive side, some not so expensive. And I'll kind of talk to you about the differences of what I think are good choices and what aren't. So there's two types of microphones out there, and they're different. Dynamic microphones and condenser microphones. Which one works best depends a lot on your surroundings. So let's just talk about a dynamic. Now, that's what I'm using. If you're looking at, well, you can't see me right now because I'm not in the picture here. There we go. So if you're looking at me here, the microphone that I'm using right now is a dynamic. Um, these are the ones that are really the workhorse. They're the ones that are designed to musicians use them, and it's really the best for, I think, for sound. I like it the best. It has good sound sensitivity, but they're less sensitive than dynamics. Than the condenser ones, and I'll explain the reason for that. So, one of the reasons you don't sometimes want an overly sensitive microphone is such as a program like this, where I don't like to wear ear monitors, so I'll hear the voices coming from my computer. Now, this particular microphone I'm using rejects that noise, so you don't hear it coming through the microphone. Otherwise, you might get some what we call slapback sounds. Now, this is a example of a dynamic microphone, the Shure SM7B, and it is a great workhorse. As I said, not the cheapest. And then there's condenser microphones. Well, why would you want to use those? They, instead of using a diaphragm that moves back and forth, it uses a capacitor, a that condenses and converts sound waves into electricity. They're much more sensitive. So that's usually what's built into your computers are these condensers because they're much smaller. Um, not as durable as the dynamic microphones. But again, whatever microphone works best for you is always going to be your best microphone. What you think sounds best for your voice. And this is an example of a condenser microphone. Again, a little bit less expensive, but again, a good quality microphone. Now, the other thing, there's a difference in microphones in the type of connection to your computer. Now there's what we call USB, which is kind of your plug and play. You just plug it directly right into your computer and you're good to go. Or XLR microphone, which is what I'm using, is an XLR. XLR is the interface that connects a microphone to usually to a mixer. So it's what professional musicians would normally have hooked up to their mics. It gives a clean sound. It's a balanced feed. You don't get a lot of extra sound that's produced by the electrical hookups. So that's why we always use I prefer the XLRs. But I will tell you, this is a really neat thing. On my show, I have experts that join me for the show and always have my experts having good sounding, sound themselves. So I sent them this microphone from Amazon. It's the Genuvio USB microphone. Really been really pleased with the sound quality, and it's only $17, $17.99. So the nice thing is I can order it and have it shipped directly to the presenter's house, and at that price I don't even worry about the shipping to have it sent back. But these are great microphones to utilize for better than the computer sound. Now, not as good as what I'm using right now, but definitely not a bad microphone. The one I'm using is this thing called the Shure MV7X XLR podcasting microphone. Shure made this one just for podcasting. Again, it's off of what was the old standby for musicians called the Shure SM58. It's an SM58 inside of it. Not terribly expensive, $179. I think I got mine on a special sale when they were discounting them, so I saved a few bucks. And as I said, musicians, there I am when I was back in my music days. And that's the SM58 I used to sing through all the time. It's the workhorse of most musicians. Now, one of the things with an XLR is you have to have a mixer in order to have sound coming through it. You have to plug it into something. It won't go right into your keyboard, right into your computer. The nice thing about a mixer is it does give you several adjustments that you can make to your sound, such as how much power and a little bit of EQ, the bass and high lows, that type of thing. You also have to take that signal and create it something into something the computer can recognize. So you need what they call an interface. And excuse me, I use something called the Blackmagic AT2020 Mini Pro. And that one is a switcher for video. So I also plug my video into that, but it has an input for the audio and it will convert the audio into a signal that can be seen. $295. So you start adding it up. You got $200 for the microphone, another $70 for a mixer, another $300 for that. You got a little bit of an investment, but it gives you the best sound quality. Now Shure makes this thing here that's called a USB to XLR interface. And for $129, you can get rid of the mixer and you can utilize some of the onboard software mixers that you can get on your computer. Again, I kind of like the hardware mixer myself. I think there's something about being able to turn a button to control things that makes it nice. And this is the king of all microphones. It's called the MV7 Plus. Shure just released it, and it's priced at I think that's $279 there. But anyway, that microphone can do USB or XLR, so you can choose how you want to be broadcasting on it. So I kind of put this diagram together to show you basically how my plugin works. I've got my computer here that's going to that through a XLR connector that's going into my mixer, which then goes into the streaming generator, the ATIM Mini, which then sends out a signal that plugs in by USB-C into the back of my computer. That's what's feeding everything in. So here's some top picks for microphones for podcasting. And if you want something really budget friendly, it's kind of an SM58 like microphone. It's called the Samson Q2U. These are all coming off of Amazon. I thought that'd be the best one. It's a dynamic microphone. I like that. USB or XLR, so you can plug it directly into your computer. Um, and again, 69.99, not a bad microphone. It comes with that little stand too. We'll talk about how stands are important. The For a condenser microphone, the mid-range kind of the Rode NT is a USB microphone condenser. I kind of think that's a pretty good choice. I've never used one before, but I've listened to a lot of shows, and I kind of like what it has are those knobs on the side, which allows you to control the volume coming out of it. So you have a little bit of control with knobs, so similar to my mixer. And then again, the Shure SM7B for about 300, almost $400. You say, why is that one more expensive? It's on the high end dynamic XLR. It also has some noise cancellation software and stuff like that built into the microphone itself. And if you want to go all the way to the top just to have the full picture, the pros use something called the Newman TLM 103. It's $1,200, so way out of my budget, but it's there for completeness. Now, if you're looking to try to see what's your best choice for microphone, go to something like Guitar Center or Sweetwater. There can be usually found in most major metropolitan areas, and just go in there and try out microphones. Most of the times they'll let you test them out and see what sounds the best for your particular voice. Now, if you're getting good sound, it's important to understand what VU meters are. Those are the volume units, and you've seen them on mixers before. They are these little colored tabs that go up um, from -20 up to 3 plus, and you can see a green, yellow, red typically. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to make sure that the sound quality is best. If it's too low, it's hard to hear. People have to turn up their volume, and you're going to get more noise. So you kind of want it up in that zero. Is considered the kind of the minimal. So it shows that scale. You want to prevent distortion by getting up into that red zone. So if it's too high, what'll happen is it's going to hit like a wall. If you ever look at sound waves, you'll see them flatten out when they get to too high of a level. So they call that clipping, and it really sounds bad. So you want to avoid that. One of the other things I'll take and show you real quick here. Let me see if I can share my screen. There it is. So you can see this is the VU meter that I use. It's part of the ATIM software. And what you're looking at is where my voice level is right now. So you see it's kind of bouncing around. It does an average. What we're looking is for peaks. I don't want to have peaks way up there. You can kind of hear the difference. So I want to be up in this area here where it's yellow. So, and again, I can adjust that through my mixer. One of the other things, as long as we're here, the reason I like to use this is if you know a little bit about HDMI, and which is your video cameras, and your USB, which is your audio camera, sound travels faster than video. I mean, I know in physics, it's light travels faster than sound. Well, it's just the opposite. So what I have here is the ability to the speed that the sound is getting to the picture, because what'll happen is if I didn't do that, my mouth would be out of sync. Okay, hopefully I got that straightened out. Um, and then one of the ways you do control this is through this mixer. Is you have those buttons that you can kind of turn to increase the gain or increase the levels so that you can get that sound right where you want it. One of the other things I always recommend is something called a microphone boom arm. So you don't want your microphone picking up a lot of noise. Mine's on a boom, as you can sort of see. Um, this is a very inexpensive one, $17. I actually own that type boom, and I use that when I go on my for traveling when I do remotes because I can just screw it down onto any table, and it's getting going to hold the microphone in a good position. And if you have a bigger budget, this Elgato Wave is a really nice one. Again, it allows you a lot of adjustments, but it's quieter. Those springs that you saw on the other one are all built into it, so you don't have those sounds of springs moving if you're moving the arm around a lot. My arm's kind of set on mine, so I don't really have it move much. I just push it out of the way when I'm not using it. The other thing is pop filters. So microphones, if you have a lot of what they call pulses, with the P's and B's and anything that makes you pop, having that foam cover will also help reduce some of that popping sound. Another thing that's kind of important is where you put your microphone. So as you can see, there this dynamic microphone. As I get away from it, it's it's not going to be as I go way back here. You're not going to hear me as well as when I get up here. A lot of people wonder, well, why don't you just keep your microphone out of the view? Well, because it's not the best place for the sound. So sound number one, most important. So that's why I always stick with that. And you can kind of see this is another example of sound placement. There's different patterns for different microphones. Some of these have multiples that you can set, like most of the condenser ones do. But the ones I like are the cardioids because they only have pick up sound in one direction. In front of it, it blocks. It doesn't get anything from the back, but you can get it from both sides with a bidirectional or omnidirectional from all sides. Um, and let's see. So some final tips before I swing over to the talk to you guys. Consider your recording environment and budget before purchasing. Always test your microphone settings before every recording. We always do a sound check before all of my shows so that I know that everybody sounds really good. Invest in pop filters. And don't forget about accessories like shock mounts and soundproofing. Soundproofing is something I'll probably cover in a different show, but if you're going to have a home studio, you want to make sure that you've got things like this thing behind me, that backdrop. Besides giving me a better look than looking at all the junk I have behind me, it also absorbs a lot of sound, so it's a great way to prevent sound problems. All right, so now, if you're interested and you have any questions or comments, you can go ahead and put those in. If you just want to say hi, at least I'll know who is watching the show. I can see I got a few people up there. Um, but if you don't use the comments, I won't know that you're there. But if you have any questions or comments, feel free to put those in. If anybody wants to test out their equipment, wants some tips on what they're using and how it sounds, go ahead and put that into the comments. Be again glad to help you out. That's what we're gonna do with this show. Oh, thanks, Danny Williamson. Appreciate it. Uh, so good to get some comments. This software, I'm gonna probably run through that too one of these days. As you can kind of see, I was switching between slides and myself being in it, or I can just have nothing but the slide. Um, oops, nothing but the slides there. So it really allows a lot of flexibility. But one of the things it does bring up the ability to bring your comments in there. So there's Danny Williamson's comments. So, and that's really about all I have to say for the first episode. Again, I always found that, the way I like to do things is to learn by seeing what the audience likes and how many people I attract. So I think that originally I thought I might have a lot of people that wanted to get on live and just kind of hang out as a live talk, but it doesn't look like I've got any takers on that one. If still the offer's there while I'm chatting with you, if you want to try to see how you look on the live side. If think about it for next time if you didn't do it this time. I think I will broadcast this to probably YouTube next time so that they can, since I'm putting out an educational piece too, have that there available for people. That I think will also help attract an audience. Just like everything else, I use some of the LinkedIn connections I have and some of my regular audience viewers from my other shows as people that I advertised, and hope to pick up some people that are, like I said, thinking of it, because I think it's really gonna be the future for education, at least. It really seems that people like this type of format, so I'm gonna keep going away at it. And Danny, he says looking forward to the rest of the series. Not a problem. It's going to be a once a month. I do two other podcasts every week, and being the host and producer of these shows does kind of cut into my time quite a bit. Thank goodness I'm nearly retired and have a lot of time to devote to this. But I decided this particular one I do it on a nighttime. The other ones are done Saturday mornings, and so about once a month to try to keep up with getting good content for you guys too. So, all right, if there's no other questions, hey, it's been fun hanging out with you guys, and we'll see everybody that's interested in learning more about going on and becoming streamers yourself by becoming part of boot camp.